Don't you just love it how venting in real life is like complaining and venting on the internet is like doing your job? What's up, guys? I'm Yes or No, and today we are talking about the story of a girl who cried a river and drowned the whole world. I'm just messing, but we are talking about the story of a girl whose close family member told her that I cried a river and therefore she should not travel the world. That makes absolutely no sense to you guys, so I'm gonna lay it down. I'm gonna lay it down right here for you. Essentially, the reason that I was inspired to make this whole video is because a very close friend of mine told me that she wanted to move to Spain. But when she told her family this, one of her family members protested and cited me as an example of why not to travel. Right? They said, they said, look at Taylor. She moved to Germany and she's just like hating it. And therefore, this friend of mine should not move to Spain because the same thing would happen to her. These like air quotes, these like finger bunnies are hopping into my whole conversation today, apparently. But no, you guys, like, I thought that was so crazy that I would ever be cited as a reason for why not to travel, right? Because, guys, my whole thing is encouraging people to pull a queen and go whichever way the wind blows. It doesn't really matter to me. To me. Okay, anyway. So continuing. So it was mind-boggling to me that I would be cited as a reason for why not to travel. Basically, when I think about my time in Europe, I think about it as a time that I would never, ever, ever want to take back, right? I wouldn't want to relive it because it was a very tough time, but I would never want to take it back because have you guys ever heard of growing pains? When somebody's going through adolescence and they grow so fast that they have actual physical pain in their body, that's kind of what was happening to me on an emotional level when I was out in Europe. And I know you guys don't want to hear about me all the time, but essentially when I was out there, I was figuring out what love was. I was trying to define what things I most wanted out of my life, out of my career. I was learning new perspectives for seeing the world. And so naturally, I had growing pains. Even if you decide to travel, if anybody decides to travel, like there will be things that are uncomfortable. But that means that you're learning something, either one, about the world, or two, about yourself. And that's why I highly, highly, highly recommend most people, if you can, should travel, right? And if you ever get the opportunity to, I would say try living abroad as well. And that doesn't mean that travel is the only way to get your mind to think differently and see new ways of thinking, but I think travel is kind of one of the easiest ways to place yourself in a completely new microcosm and spur that immediate growth. But you could also do this, for example, with jobs, right? So one of the things that so attracted me to Zeman when I first met him was I remember we were having a conversation about him and the job that he was in. And I said, oh, that's really great. Like, do you think you're going to stay there, like be there in the next 5 years, 10 years? And he was like, I hope not. He's like, I feel like I have gotten to the end of my learning curve here. And he's like, if I'm not gone in the next year and doing something new, he said, I'm going to be disappointed in myself. And that was so attractive to me because that's exactly how I think. like you get to a point where the learning curve, which way would look best to you on screen? The learning curve just plateaus, right? And unless you're trying to be like the absolute best in a certain discipline, it doesn't behoove you to keep staying when you've hit the plateau of the learning curve, right? You want to keep getting those new learning curves, keep moving up, and then moving on after you've learned pretty much the extent of what you're going to learn, at that job, in that country, in those relationships. Ladies, am I right? I guess what I'm saying is don't ever let someone discourage you from throwing yourself into a new positive learning situation. And I can't tell you that you'll have a positive experience in the moment. Like, you might end up like me and feel like you're just hitting tons of walls over and over again, and you might feel bad. But the learning that you do during those moments of hitting those walls and trying to break through them is so amazing and makes everything so worth it. The more you know. Am I right? Yep. No, but also, just because somebody else might have had a negative experience with something doesn't mean that you will, right? Like, everybody has their own unique experiences. The people that you meet along your journey will be different than the people that I meet. The places that you go will be different than the places that I go, right? And so you might end up having the time of your life pursuing something that for me ended a different way. But regardless, both of us putting ourselves out there will make us better people because of it. So, I guess what I'm saying is, if you have a family member discouraging you from going to Spain, buy those plane tickets. Yep. I'm off. Why? Why are conclusions like this for me? I don't know. Bye. No.